All right, everybody, welcome to another YouTube video. And today we're going to talk about options and what two variables I look for when writing covered calls. You can also apply this to cash secured puts, but I have not talked about those yet. And maybe I'll talk about those in a different video, but we can highlight a little bit about them because the rules are the same in terms of what I look for. So before I go any further, if you're getting value out of my content, please do these four things for me. I would be forever grateful. Number one, subscribe to the channel. Two, like this video. Third, hit the bell so that you get alerted when I release new content. And then lastly, share it with your friends. Other people may not know about this stuff, and I think it's pretty cool, but maybe that's just me. I'm a stock door, whatever you want to call me, but it's all good. The other thing I want to talk about before I go into the topic is I do have a video series I'm still working on and releasing videos slowly about what I think young adults need to learn about when it comes to personal finance. So if you're interested in that, feel free to hit the bell and do all those four things I described previously, because I do think a lot of people need to hear this information. I really, really do. And I think I'm putting out some really valuable content. It may not be the prettiest and fanciest and most, polished, but the information is there, and I think people need to hear it. So let's talk about the three things that I look for when it comes to writing options. I think I might have said two earlier, but I'm going to add the third one. The extra one is the stock. You have to know what stocks that you have. You have 100 shares in to write covered calls, and so the stock is always the first thing you have to set. And so just know that. So I'm going to talk about the two other things now that I think you need to focus on. The first is the expiration date. And I want to illustrate this with the QQQ. QQQ, for those of you that don't know, it follows the NASDAQ index. It's basically like the S&P 500, which tracks the largest 500 companies in the United States, but it's a little bit more tech weighted. And so obviously you're going to have things like Amazon, Google, Microsoft, things like that are in there, but also like there's some surprising ones in there like Costco, PayPal that are pretty heavily weighted in there. So yeah, that's essentially what's in there. Now, what I want to point out is let's look at the June 3rd. June 3rd is tomorrow, correct? Today's June 2nd when I do this video, so we're gonna have June 3rd, 2022. Now, if I go in here and I say, I want to write a $320 strike call, which means, here's what this means, is if I have 100 shares of QQQ, I am saying, hey, I'm going to sell you a contract that you're allowed to pay me $32,000 to buy my 100 shares. Okay? And that means if NASDAQ goes up to 327, guess what? You have to sell it to them at 320. So that's what you're doing. Remember that. So let's go back here. What this is saying is I will get a premium of $17. You could do a limit order in between the bid and the ask, but you can see they're not really much difference. But you're going to get $18, right? And these numbers change as the stock price moves up and down. So this is another key point. So look here, $19 right now at that point in time. Now, if I go and say, hey, I'm going to write one, let's say June 10th. So that'd be next Friday. Now let's look. Same one, 320. Oh my gosh, $213. Remember, 100 shares multiplied by 100. What happened? Why is that? Because you're selling more time. That more time means that the option is more likely to get assigned. That's a key point. And another key point that we're going to talk about now is delta. And notice it's a delta of 0.28. And then I'm going to go back to the example here of June 6th, or I'm sorry, June 3rd. June 3rd. I was telling you wrong here. June 3rd. And you'll see that the delta here on this 320 is 0.08. So why is it higher? Well, I'm going to tell you that in a second, but let me finish the time argument here. I like to write options that expire a week out. Why? Because I want to minimize my risk of getting assigned. I know that current events, news events, with the way the world is, a lot of stuff can happen on the weekend, and I don't want to be holding an option over the weekend. That's just my preference. You can certainly do that. There are people that write options that expire like a month out, 2 months out. Covered calls for beginners talks about 30 to 45 days. You can do whatever you want with that. Just know that you really need to be aware of what you're doing when you do that. So just understand that. So with that being said, I like weeklies, and that's where I'll leave it at that. Now, we go to the next thing, and I was gonna talk about it earlier, is delta. And what you can see here is anything in purple is in the money. That means if it expired tomorrow and you had sold it, you're gonna get assigned. So let's know that. And one thing I want to point out is you can see there's a delta of 1 up here, and it goes all the way down to 0. And you see this in the option chain. What you also see too is the probability that the option will expire at worthless or out of the money. And what you can see is it's down near 0. This means you're going to get assigned versus you go up here where it's 99%, you're going to keep your shares, right? It's a pretty safe bet. So at the end of the day, you want to keep your shares and you want to collect the premium. So to me, you want to be kind of in this sweet spot. But there's a balance of how much premium are you getting versus the risk you're taking. Because an option selling, when you sell an option, you are taking a risk. You just are. So what I want to point out is this delta. And this is what you need to be looking for. You do not need to go in here and say, I want 320. I want to look at these strike prices. No. Do not just focus on strike price. You focus on the delta and the time and the stock. So when I look here, here's the thing. I like to write deltas between 15 and 20. You can be a little bit more aggressive if you want and write one, maybe this 24 or this 30. And the reason I would say that is because you look here, the NASDAQ's gone up almost 2%. So that may benefit you if that's what you want to do. There's nothing wrong with that, but just know that, yeah, it's had a big run. So for it to expire tomorrow and get, and for you to get assigned, it would have to have another big run to go up to 320, right? So it's something to be aware of. But what you see is this delta does change as the share price increases, that delta will push higher and higher and higher. And what it is measuring is for every dollar the share price goes up. So in other words, every dollar that the QQQ goes up, how much is the option price going to increase? So if it's at, let's say, a 50, I'm going to round the 50 here, a 50 delta, that means if the QQQ goes up $1, that option price is going to go up 50 cents. But now you have to remember, it's 50 cents per share. So that means the option contract, because it's 100 shares, is going to go up $50. So this is what this is trying to illustrate here and how that works. So just know that. And then when you look at the puts, it's the opposite, because obviously if the share price goes up, the puts go down and vice versa. So this is why you're seeing, these jumps here in terms of the share price. So I'm sorry, in terms of the option contract price. But those are what I would focus on. And what you have to be comfortable with is the risk that you're taking. And when you look down here, yeah, you could go write one at 325 and be assured with over 99% confidence that you're going to get to keep your shares. But look, you're only getting a $1 premium for it. Is that worth it? Is that worth your time, worth your hassle? On when you have to buy 100 shares of this, and that's $31,000, multiply that by 100. Yeah, so is that worth it to you? Or would you say, hey, I'm willing to take a little bit more risk and maybe write one here or here and get 58 bucks? That's a judgment call you have to make. For me, I like to be between 15 to 25, kind of in that range. It just depends, but that's kind of my thought on it. And so everyone can be different with it and how they approach it. But that's what I think works for me. But at the end of the day, the takeaways are that you do not need to just go in here and buy based on a strike price. you need to be looking at the stock that you're writing. You need to look at how far out do you want to write the option, and also the delta. And again, you want to maximize your probability, but also reasonably collect some premiums. And so, when I talk about my video getting 1/4 to 0.5%, it's entirely possible. You're going to have to take a little bit of risk to get it. You can't just go out here and write ones that have a delta of 1 or 0 and try to get free money that way, because it's not there. You have to take a little risk. So that's my thoughts on it. If you have any questions, be sure to drop them in the comments. And I'm happy to answer what I can. And obviously, be sure that you're following me on Instagram if you're not already, and follow me on Twitter. I do interact with a lot of people on those two platforms. So if you're not following me there, go ahead and do it. You all have a great day.